What's up, guys? Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Just got back from being boots on the ground at the Kaseya Center. Your Miami Heat put a beat down on the Philadelphia 76ers tonight, 106-89, and a hell of a return for one Jimmy Butler to the lineup for your Miami Heat. Crazy. The Heat coming into this one, I was telling my boy Brady Hogg, I was like, I do not have a great feeling about this game tonight. I knew the Miami Heat were coming into a game. Very weird schedule, right? And you had to think, the Miami Heat coming off a weird road trip. They find out before the game, apparently Scary Terry has been dealing with some foot pain that he didn't tell anybody about until yesterday's game, or I guess he has been, but the way Spo said is he's been dealing with it, but it's flared up, and he didn't really talk about it to anybody until after yesterday's game. So Terry was out of the lineup. We knew Jaime was out. So you're losing some scoring punch. Even, those guys can be streaky as they are. You're losing some scoring punch there. But you were getting Jimmy Butler back, and so you knew that the starting lineup was going to be shaken up a little bit. But this is a weird one, man. To come off of a road trip where you're playing a back-to-back at home. I hate those games. I hate long road trips, and then you have a standalone home game, and then you're back out either on the road or you're on a long break. Once a year you have one of these quirks where you're out of the road for 4 days, or you're out of the road for 3 days, you come back for one, and then you're back out to Charlotte or something like that. This is a weird one because the Heat, they played out on the road for 2 weeks. They come back for a game, and then the schedule looks so weird. And I remember this last year, I made the mistake. I thought these were were the fill-in games coming? And I kind of wrote about it. I was interrupted by Frog Boy at Dunkin' Donuts today, so I didn't read all of it. But from what I understand is there was a Shakira concert combined with the fact of they had to keep Friday and Tuesdays clear because those are NBA Cup days. Alas, the Miami Heat have ended up here with a game and then not another game until Sunday. So I just had a little bit of a weird one. The Sixers had been in Miami basically for 4 days. But then you also had this thing where Joel Embiid was not going to play. It came out that he had an illness and he was doubtful. I don't know what's going on with these illnesses around. I don't know if it was Southie Jones. So I was under the impression Joel Embiid wasn't going to play today. And I was in my zone before the game just to kind of give everybody my rundown of my day before we get into the Heat. Toes, we don't care. Let's get to the Heat kicking ass. Fair point. They sent the stupid Sixers to a team meeting. We'll get to that. But just to review, guys, on my day, it was a boots on the ground field day. Went down to Miami, did the show from the studio. Then the Marlins had introduced their new manager, Clayton McCullough. I would appreciate if you guys could give that a view, if you give it a like. I know you guys don't give a lot of you guys aren't Marlins peeps, but got some good content there. If you guys wouldn't mind giving that a view, the fight stuff from this weekend, I would appreciate you guys spreading the wealth on that. Or if you know a friend who's a big Marlins fan, tell them about the channel or whatnot. But anyway, I went down to the Marlins, went to the press conference, was in the scrum with the owner, Bruce Sherman, talked to him, did a one-on-one for a few minutes with the new manager. And then I had to come back. I had to cut dolphin sound because I had a dolphin sound for the show. I hadn't heard what Mike McDaniel had said for the day. I haven't even heard what I'm behind. I haven't even heard what Mario Cristobal had said. It was a very busy chat day. So anyway, I say all of this because I was very lost in my computer after the Eric Spolestra pregame press conference, which was very good, by the way. And I was I had gone all this time. I had not eaten. So I went to get something to eat. And then I just come back out, and I see Joel Embiid on the floor. I'm normally when a guy does that and they're not playing, it's typically they're coming on their way back from an injury. They're working their way back. Jimmy just did this for many days. Nobody does that for an illness. If you're sick, you're home. And so, I go down to the floor, and I see my boys, Wes Gover from Lockdown. I see Brady Hogg. I think, Zach from Clutch. And I'm I just look at the boys. I'm are you playing tonight? And they're yeah. They're yeah, dum-dum, where have you been? Yeah, I had no idea Joel Embiid was going to give it a go. So all of a sudden I was oh, business is kind of picked up for this game. And I was more intrigued by it. But this Sixers team, man, they, mind you, understood that Paul George didn't start the season, Joel Embiid didn't start the season. They've dealt with that. But now Joel Embiid has been back for 3-4 games. They've won one game. with him, and he just looked, he looked awful tonight, really. Just non-impact, I guess is the way I would put it. Like, if you looked at his line and you're like 5 for 11, but they're all jump shots. I think there was some stat of like this was the first time he hadn't had a free throw in God knows how long, but just was like a non-factor. And it was a bad look, man. That Sixers team is in a rough place. That being said, this was a very, very frustrating first half and a roller coaster of emotions. And I don't know why, man. There was a lot of things going down with this, but Miami was in the first quarter was really doing some great stuff. Bam Adebayo did not have a great offensive night by any means. You would have thought that he was on his way to a big night because he put this pretty step back on Joel Embiid. I thought Joel Embiid was about to be sent to the IR, dude. Like the way that he shook him out of his shoes. Beautiful jumper, put Miami on top. And Jimmy Buckets, he got this beautiful outlet pass from Tyler Herro. Kyle Lowry-esque, and right over Kyle Lowry from Tyler. And Jimmy Buckets put a score, and like, oh man, Miami is looking good. And to take a veer off here to the former Heat guys, you had Kyle Lowry on the Heat, on the Sixers, and Caleb Martin on the Sixers. I guess this was their first game. I know it was Caleb's first game. I didn't remember I know they played Kyle last year, but I guess they were all Philly games. It had been made a thing on Twitter that the Heat didn't give them tribute videos today. The Heat don't do that. They typically only do that for, I believe, returning champions. And I think they bent the rules for like Goran, and then they changed it to like champions and all-stars or something like that if you made an all-star with the team because Goran was so beloved. I think that's how it went. I don't even remember if Goran got a tribute now that I think about it. In fact, I think Goran made his return and it was kind of like a non-thing. And then I remember, you guys don't remember this, but actually what happened is Goran, I think he made his return with the Nets if I'm not mistaken, and it was like not a big deal. And Goran was like sitting in the stands during Heat games after he left the Raptors. And I'm just like, I'm assuming I don't remember if he was not allowed to come back, but I'm hoping he's coming back. And he ends up going to the Nets. And I think he played one game here, and it wasn't like a big deal. And then the next year, he played for Chicago, and that is when I dressed up in the Dragon costume and welcomed him in. That being said, all over the place today. I got a lot of things to get to. Kyle Lowry and Caleb Martin not getting tribute videos. I don't think of that as a big deal. I know like some people were upset about it, but they got like the Mike Biamonte respectful Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, and people gave a nice round of applause for them. But that was it. And then it kind of moved on. It was beautiful to see. Everybody was really happy to see Caleb beforehand. A lot of handshakes and hugs. And a lot of people were happy to see Kyle, man. Kyle's beloved in that locker room. I know there's maybe a thought that it was in, that he wasn't like a liked teammate. Maybe because there was some frostiness with the media, which is not something I experienced with him a lot. But it was definitely, I get, too many people have said it's not there, right? But man, a lot of those guys love him. Tyler loves him. Duncan loves him. They're all hugging and handshakes. There's this video that I put up on that got a lot of action on social media of Jimmy and Kyle like messing with each other, and then just Kevin Love just jumps in out of nowhere and puts them in a choke. It was funny. It was actually like one of those games too where it was like, Kyle Lowry finished with 0 points today. And it was almost like one of those games where I was like, I don't think I feel like playing against those guys. I like those guys. Maybe that's just where the state of the Sixers are at right now, right? But back to the game. After that Jimmy Butler play, we'll get back to it. So after that, Jimmy comes out, or Pella and Kevin come in for Bam and Tyler. And then Philly, kind of starts getting going. There's a lineup out there of J. Rich, Pella, Haywood, Duncan, Kevin. This lineup did not do so hot. And this was one of those where I was like, I don't know why in a situation like, I don't know why Spo goes with if there's ever a time where usually Jimmy will close out a quarter. So I don't know if this was a case of he was just coming back there doing easy on his minutes, but it's very rare there's a time where like the three of those guys are all sitting on the bench at once. But it was going bad, dude. And Jared McCain, this is where I got a little wacky, all right? I had a weird night on me because Jared McCain, who was the pick after Khalil Ware, Jared McCain was feeding the Heat buckets for like 9 minutes from the first quarter to the second quarter. This kid was cooking, and he was very much having a game that was the ilk of you mother bleepers passed on me. And Spo acknowledged, like, they looked at this kid a lot in the pre-draft process. They end up going with Khalil Ware, and I started lashing out on Twitter because the lead was slipping away. The Heat were falling behind. They're down 8 at the break to Philadelphia after Jared McCain hits a 3-ball. And it was annoying. And like Kevin Love was a -13, and I'm like, why is he out there? Why aren't they playing their first round pick? And so I lashed out on Twitter. I wasn't proud of myself, but I started like doing, and I don't like to do that, especially when I'm at a home game. Like I'm trying to, you're at the game, try and see things that other people aren't seeing. But I was just in my feelings because I want Khalil to play, and I got mad at Spo, and I apologize, and I was like tweeting out like you know, it's so great to watch, you know, the guy you take, you don't bother playing him, and the guy you pass on is just feeding you buckets, and he's giving you finger guns, and he's like flexing at his bench, and I'm just like, this is awful. I can't believe this. We just pulled another Precious Achiuwa. Now, because everybody, like, I think that the Heat is a great drafting organization. I really do. Like, they've done a really fantastic job. Adam Simon and that crew has done a great job. But everybody can, of recent memory, throw Tyrese Maxey in your face, though he didn't play tonight. They're like, you took Precious Achiuwa over Tyrese Maxey. And I'm like, yeah, right. You know, and it's such a weak-ass response to be like, Tyler Herro was coming off the bubble. You know, they're like, shut up. So now I'm sitting here and I'm like in my feelings because Khalil's not playing and Jared McCain's feeding the Heat buckets, and I'm lashing out at Spo. And then Spo pulls the move of moves, dude. You want to know what his move is? This is why he's a genius and I'm a bum. This is why. Because Spo does the genius thing because the Heat look tired. They look dead, dude. They're going down by double digits. It's like a 16-point deficit at this point. Tyler Herro's just getting blown by Caleb Martin like it's nobody's business. McCain's Andre Drummond's going off. Strangely, none of this was Embiid, by the way. And Spo does, this is why he's the best. Spo does a brilliant move with the team off a back-to-back. He decides, you know what? Nothing's going good right now. I'm going to play guys who haven't played in 2 weeks. Fresh, dude. So he puts in Alec Burks and Dru Smith, Heat Twitter's favorite. You know he loves Dru Smith. And he puts him in with Jimmy Butler, who also is in there fresh. He has not played in nearly a week and a half. And these boys start going to work. They start going to town. And Dru Smith is hitting 3 balls. And he gets Jimmy Butler for a basket. And Jimmy is starting to find these guys for assists, and then all of a sudden the Heat are finding their way back. They're down a dozen. Joel Embiid, you know, he hits a jumper over Nico. Then some weirdness happens. So Joel Embiid like runs through. This dude falls so much for the biggest guy in the court. It's really dangerous. He like runs through Jimmy Butler, but like also flops like a fish. And the Heat are in the bonus. Jimmy Butler goes to the line, cuts the deficit to 2. Then Jimmy Butler is like getting a loose ball. I think Paul George threw it up. He catches it between Kyle Lowry and I don't remember who the other person was, but Jimmy Butler caught it in traffic. He then gets fouled on the loose ball. It was Alex Burke. Was saving in the inbounds. He kind of throws it up. Jimmy Butler gets he goes back to the line, down 8. Then Alec Burks, he gets on and puts up a sick ass finger roll, cut to 6, and then it was one of these weird ones where it was Oh, it was another one where Jimmy Butler, so Haywood Highsmith, I think, got on a fast break. He misses the bucket. And then Jimmy gets the putback and is trying to get the putback, but like Paul George shoves him. So they just keep fouling Jimmy Butler. And Jimmy Butler goes back to the line, cuts the lead to, I think it was 4 at that time. And then I think they got another bucket, so they go back up 6. Then Burks hits a 3, and the Heat's deficit's closer than ever. They're basically, they go down and they whittle this thing that gets all the way from a 16-point Sixers lead is now just a 3-point Sixers lead going into halftime. And you're like, man, this is why Spo's the best, and old Tobes is a big fat baby bum. Because I sat here and I was whining and having a tantrum about Khalil Ware. And you know what he was looking for? Solutions. And his solution was, I'm going to play guys that aren't tired. That's why he's the best. I would have never thought of that. I would have never looked at him and been like, you know what? And even he's like, you know what? He goes, we looked around the locker room and you know what we said? Did anybody cry about the getting benched? And he goes, no. You want to know why? We acknowledge it. We were tired. All right. And everybody, got a little bit of a break. And Tyler Herro, who had a rough first half, was not, it was kind of going back to like his past years where people are just blowing out. He can't do anything on defense, had no legs on his shots, comes out of halftime, and dude, Tyler Herro right out of the gate, bang, ties it up with a 3, and you're like, uh-oh, here we go. And the Miami Heat started lighting them up from downtown. Jimmy Buckets got a 3. Duncan Robinson got a 3. Then Duncan got a smooch off the glass over Joel Embiid. And then Tyler Herro got another 3 to put the Heat up 8. The intangibles were refreshed, and they were starting to hit him, dude. And they didn't know that. Like the Sixers didn't know what hit him. And they only had one move. The rest, their offense went kaput. They had nothing. The only thing they had was this Paul George, who's also, he was getting calls like you would think he was Michael Bleepin Jordan, the way he was getting calls. It was ridiculous, the kind of calls. And Jimmy Butler, quite frankly, looked fed up with it. Bam, too. There was at one point they reviewed a foul where, I was very confused by this because the ball, kicked off, his foot kicked him in the face and went out of bounds. And they reviewed it. And then they came back and they said, well, it was an obvious foul by Bam Adebayo on Paul George. I'm like, I didn't realize you could review non-calls. When the hell did this sorcery happen? I didn't even realize that was something that was reviewable. But apparently it is. So that was something. The Heat completely just zonked him in the third quarter. Reverse third quarter, clean colon quarter, 35-16 they outscored him. And completely took control of the game. Great performance. And the thing with Tyler, this was the thing that was great with Tyler, man. Tyler had completely taken over this quarter, and it really wasn't with shooting. He only hit, I think, 2 threes tonight. I think I mentioned both of them. This was a lot of Tyler, eyes wide open, just puts his head down and was attacking. And, man, if we can't just talk about this kid's maturity and this kid, and I'm talking about a game maturity. I'm not talking about a personal maturity. I think the kid has always, handled himself well, right? I'm talking about, just growth in his game. This is a guy who I always feel, I never felt like would be gun shy if he was slumping, but he was always going to look for the cleanest thing to try and get him right? Like a floater or something like that. This dude was just shot ain't going today, put my head down, get to the rim, and get to the free throw line. And then, there was even one where he did bait Eric Gordon into fouling him shooting a 3, and he got to the free throw line for 3. But he was just head down, dude. He was skipping down the paint. No, nobody could touch him. He was styling out there, dude. He looked absolutely fantastic. Looked really, really good, man. And then the fourth quarter, Jimmy Buckets was just a menace for this team, man. And even they brought in Dru Smith at a time because Tyler played the entire third quarter. So then they kind of rested him and they were giving Dru Smith some minutes in the fourth quarter. And that's one of the things I like with Jimmy, man. He could just work with anybody. You give Jimmy Butler like any lineup, anybody out there, he's gonna make it work. He's gonna trust his teammates. And like Dru Smith was awesome. Got a bucket on Kelly Oubre. I put on my notes, F you, frog boy. Yeah, that's right, dude. You're going to answer for your crimes on the radio show. I'm telling you right now. But yeah, man, the Heat, they would really they would put it on the door. The only thing, there was one last timeout where I think it was like 3:30 left. Lead got cut to 15, and Jimmy Butler, right out of the timeout, what do they go to? Tried and true, they go to Jimmy Buckets. And they he gets a bucket to put him back up 16. Then Joel Embiid throws one at the rim, and I will say I legitimately don't know how this didn't go down. It rolled around the rim 400 times and popped out, and I was just like, that's amazing. I love it. So then Jimmy, he goes at Yabusele. He goes to the line, extends the lead even more. I think it gets to 18 at that point, and then bam, he hits a 3-ball. That was all she wrote. Final score, Heat win 106-89. The Sixers did not speak to the media for over an hour. I was already long gone. I saw Tim Reynolds tweet that they had a team meeting. I did not, props to everybody who stuck around to talk to those losers. Good for you. There's not a better feeling than sending a team to a team meeting. That is a great performance. But from me going to lashing out at Spo on Twitter, which I'm not gonna do again. I was a stupid boy I'm a stupid boy with an untrained eye. I'm not gonna do that anymore, Spo. I apologize. I really am a bum. But to go from that to just sending the Sixers to the worst record in the league is a delightful feeling. And yeah, Miami's under 500. I'm not here to raise banners or throw confetti or throw confetti, but funny's funny. And they're 2-11, and they're having team meetings, and it's pretty funny because the Miami Heat, on most of their team having dead legs and banged up, come into town off of this hell holdover in Indiana to this game where these guys have been in Miami, and they they put a scare in them in the second quarter, but for the most part kicked their ass from the time that they took that big lead all the way through. The Miami Heat completely plugged them up on defense, and they were a non-factor, dude. And I don't know what's going to happen with that team, because it is funny how everybody always gives the Sixers the benefit of the doubt no matter what. And I bet that they still will, but I don't know, man. Paul George was he was a foul baiter today. That's all he had. Caleb was pretty decent for him. Lowry gave him nothing. McCain was awesome. Joel was just kind of eh. You could argue Andre Drummond was better than him tonight, honestly, as a factor. And for the Heat, it was Goosey's after the game. Jimmy Buckets, I asked Jimmy Buckets because him and Tyler were doing the press conference together, which, by the way, I love. I'm a big fan. I know not everybody loves the co-press conference. Sometimes in losses it sucks because guys cop out, but when it's together, I like the funny business. I like shenanigans. And so, I just want to ask Jimmy, because Jimmy had said at one of his answers that Tyler's really been, quote, holding it down for the Heat. And so I kind of wanted him to elaborate on that. And then we got some fun.
Jimmy, you kind of alluded to Tyler, but as many years as you've had with him, you're seeing the year that he's having. Have you seen improvements, growth? What have you seen from Tyler this year?
Yeah, he's a prolific scorer and can score on all levels. It's actually really impressive. But more than anything, I like the fact, and I think we all like the fact that he takes a challenge on defense more. He wants to guard somebody and then go down there and give them 30, 40, however many that may be. We want him to keep playing like that. We always have. He's without a doubt one of the best scorers on this team. I'm not going to say he is the best, but he can get a bucket, that's for damn sure. I beat you at one-on-one in training camp, so don't talk to me.
Don't say one of them. It's either one or...
Spo, who's 1A?
Who's 1B?
My boy.
That makes me happy, man. I like seeing Jimmy. You know, that's usually that was like the space for Kyle and Tyler, and him having that together, I think is good for the team. I think it's a good dynamic to have. Both of those guys are a force, and they were awesome today. They were simply awesome, and Miami Heat got a big win. They now get some time to rest, get healthy, get reset. We'll have 2 days off, probably get back to practice later in the week. And then I think they got Dallas on Sunday? I think they got Dallas on Sunday coming on in. So nice performance today by Miami, and very, very enjoyable for them to get that and send the Sixers to a team meeting.